Hello everyone, welcome to Full Moon Movies. Predator Badlands, released in 2025, marks an interesting turn within the Predator universe. Rather than simply repeating the formula of hunter versus human prey, this installment shifts perspective. It dares to explore what happens when the hunter becomes hunted, not only physically but emotionally and ideologically. And that subtle inversion is what gives the film its weight. From the opening sequence, the tone feels different. The landscape is vast and unforgiving, yet the real terrain of the story is internal. This predator is not presented as a silent mechanical force of destruction. Instead, we begin to sense an intention. There is purpose behind each movement, and eventually we understand why. This isn't a hunt driven purely by instinct or ritual, it's driven by revenge. One of the most compelling elements of Badlands is a backstory involving the predator's fractured lineage. The revelation that his father killed his brother establishes a personal motivation rarely explored in this franchise. That single narrative thread reshapes the character entirely. Suddenly, the predator is not merely a weapon of tradition, but an individual navigating betrayal and vengeance within his own hierarchy. The film humanizes him without softening him. He remains dangerous, lethal, and precise, but no longer empty. Now, this shift allows for one of the most interesting sub-themes in the film, the bond between predator and the humanoid. Instead of framing every encounter as predator versus prey, the story experiments with reluctant alliance. That bond isn't just sentimental, but it's strategic, built through survival, mutual respect, and shared enemies. It recalls moments in earlier franchise entries where codes of honor briefly surfaced, but here it feels more central. The predator isn't just simply interacting with humans, he's actually evaluating them. The hunter gets hunted storyline unfolds with careful pacing. There are sequences where the predator is tracked, cornered, and studied, a reversal that destabilizes the usual power dynamic. Now, this tension creates unpredictability. We are no longer certain who holds the control in any given moment, and that uncertainty fuels the film's strongest action sequences. Visually, Badlands leans into contrast. Opening terrain gives away to the claustrophobic environments, heat shimmers against metallic armor, shadow conceals more than what they reveal. In 4K, these details becomes immersive. The texture of the predator's armor, the subtle changes in landscape lighting, the sharpness of movement during combat. The sound design also complements this well, with low resonant tones during stalking sequences and sudden bursts of impact during confrontations. The bond between predator and humanoid becomes one of the film's most compelling shifts. Instead of framing every encounter as predator versus prey, the story experiments with reluctant alliance. The bond isn't sentimental, but it is strategic, built through survival, mutual respect, and shared enemies. Through Thia and Tessa's conflict, the film deliberately expands beyond traditional predator mythology. Now, this thematic layer is not accidental. The production notes openly acknowledge a conscious exploration of synthetic autonomy, placing Thia's arc within the same philosophical space that stories like Westworld have actually examined. Corporate ownership clashes with emergent identity. Programmed duty actually confronts chosen agency. Now, this doesn't turn the film into a crossover spectacle, but it does give Badlands a deeper science fiction dimension. The predator here is wrestling with clean hierarchy and inherited violence, while Thea is wrestling with corporate control and deactivation. One rebellion is cultural, the other is artificial. Together, they reshape what loyalty and pact really truly means. If you have seen my earlier review of Westworld series in 4K on this channel, you know how much I really appreciate stories that blur the line between design and autonomy. Now, that philosophical undercurrent elevates Badlands beyond the standard franchise territory. The predator is not just reacting, it's actually choosing. And that the choice actually carries consequence. The revenge against his father betrayal is not just portrayed as a triumphant by tragic. The cycles of violence still persist even when justified. Now, that's what makes the film more reflective than explosive. Now, in terms of action, the film does not disappoint. Combat is brutal and efficient, but rarely indulgent. The choreography balances clarity with chaos. You can actually follow the choreography of fights without losing the visceral intensity. The 4K presentation enhances this, ensuring that fast movement retains definition rather than dissolving into blur. Now, speaking about the Steelbook, visually it is stunning. The front cover is minimalistic, showing the Predator ascending high into the sky to strike down an alien creature. It's bold and restrained at the same time. However, the real artistry runs across the spine and inner artwork. To fully appreciate the design, you actually need to flip the Steelbook open in both sides. Now, the wraparound art really complements the visual story, giving it a sense of movement and continuity. It's a really thoughtful design choice. Now, that being said, while the artwork itself is strong, I personally feel the finishing could have benefited from more of a matte finish rather than a glossy texture. A matte finish would have complemented the harsh, rugged tone of the film. Still, as a collector's piece, it really stands out, especially for those invested in the evolving Predator mythology. Now, in terms of reception, the film has sparked discussion precisely because of its character-focused approach. Some viewers expected pure action and were surprised by its emotional layers. Others appreciated the franchise taking a risk by expanding its mythology. At the box office, it performed solidly within the franchise expectations, boosted by nostalgia and curiosity about its new direction. Now, what lingers after the credits isn't just the action, but the idea that even a creature defined by hunting can be shaped by betrayal and memory. The Predator here is not just a killing machine devoid of interiority. He is motivated, wounded, and evolving. And that evolution shifts the franchise into new territory. Ultimately, Badlands works because it reframes perspectives. It asks what happens when the hunter questions his inheritance. It explores revenge not as spectacle but as burden. And it hints at philosophical dimensions that aligns with other science fiction explorations of autonomy and rebellion. Now, as a 4K Steelbook experience, it delivers visual clarity, dynamic sound, and collector-worthy packaging. And as a story, it expands the Predator mythos in ways that feel bold yet grounded. And while the cycle of violence continues, the film suggests something new. Even the hunter carries history. Now, this movie is a must-watch.